Mm-hmm.
It has started.
Okay. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining us. We are sorry, we are 10 minutes late, technical difficulties, but we are finally here. And I'm so excited with our guest today, Mariana Munyendo, a lady that I've admired, I must say, for her tenacity, for how she moves in the sphere of children, because this is one area that really, really touches me deeply. And I've wanted to have this conversation with her just to see how you can see through even her posts without having to meet her, there's such a resolve when she's doing her work. So karibu sana, Mariana.
Thank you, Terry.
Awesome. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and how did you get to start Missing Child? What was it? Was there a link from your past, or was it purely you stumbled upon purpose?
I like the phrase that you have used, and I think I would like to use it for future introductions about myself. I stumbled upon purpose. So I founded Missing Child Kenya in 2016, July, when I realized that there is a gap in terms of what happens to missing children. We have no national database on missing children, and so to speak, we have nowhere where we can have resolution on what to do when a child goes missing. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Could you tell us a bit about your background? What kind of thing? What was that turning point that got you to a place where you decided, I have to do this. I need to do this because there is a gap. And what was that push? Did it come close home? Was it a report close home? Or was it just a cry from the people?
So actually, there was not much of a report close home or something very personal to me. I have worked in the children's sector for a while, and I realized in working in the children's sector that there are some children's issues that have fallen through the cracks, so to speak, that we are addressing, but we are not addressing with the vigor they deserve. We are addressing them from a point of them just being assigned to the many other existing issues. And so when I realized that there's no national database and parents do not know, families do not know what to do when a child goes missing, and even the community does not know how to address issues when a child goes missing, I then realized that it is something that needs to be looked at critically, because where are these children? What can we do to help families, and how can we keep on protecting our children? And so Missing Child Kenya was born. We depend a lot on the power of community leverage in terms of crowdsourcing for our alerts. Community participation is our biggest strength because it is the people on our platforms who share these alerts. We have grown over the years to come to be able to put up a toll-free line, which is available to assist to connect families to the service they need and to also guide them in the immediate incidents that a child of theirs is missing. Yes.
Okay. Just to talk to our viewers, today we're talking about child safety, keeping our children safety. Specifically in this season, more so in this season, we realize that we are in a global pandemic, of course, COVID-19, but then at the same time, we are wondering, how do we leverage the things that we have? Because we are stuck with our children at home. And when I say stuck, it should be something positive. It shouldn't be on the negative side, as parents would say, oh my goodness, what do I do with this child until next year, specifically for especially our Kenyan viewers. But even here in America, there are those people who are wondering, are we going to open in the next quarter or are we not going to open in the next quarter? The government is sort of allowing us to choose. Do we want our children in school or do we want to hold on to them and have online learning? But in my motherland, Kenya, we don't have that option, but we are being told that our children have to be with us at home until next year. But here we are having this conversation with Mariana because she is the founder and CEO of Missing Child Kenya. And we see there are many cases that are being reported left, right, and center. And we're wondering, what do we do with our children in this time? Do we hold on to them in our homes? What about them being children? Not everybody has a compound. And that is why we are thinking having this very, very amazing conversation so that we see our way forward and how to go about it. And so, Mariana, I'm asking myself, when I do not have a compound where my children can play, and even if I have, they might be ending up to be so lonely. Maybe I have one child, maybe they're just bored with each other, they're two, and with today's parenting. What happens to my child and they need to go outside? What happens to me as a parent who I cannot stand at the door to look at them throughout, or maybe I'm even at work, maybe I've left them with a caregiver. What are some of the things that you can help parents, guardians, so to speak, the primary caregivers, what are some of the things that you can help them to, to keep our children safe during this pandemic and moving forward? And because this is Kara Omurani, we are specifically more interested with the angle of sexual abuse, which I know you've come across in your line of work. What are some of the ways that you can guide us?
Terry, you're very right to say that this is the longest school holiday that we will ever have because the Kenyan government has said that we resume school in the year 2021. And
Yes.
for me, the child's best place to thrive is at home, in an environment where there is love, care, and concern. But again, on the flip side, not all homes have love, care, and concern. So we have some conflicting areas around where children are stuck in situations where they cannot get out of because of this controlled environment. Currently, I would say that with the cessation of movement across countries, counties within Kenya having been lifted just recently, when there was a total lockdown of intercity movement and also a nighttime curfew, we were also still experiencing cases of children being in need of care and protection. And this is mainly because of certain factors that are also playing a more internal role. You would find that a child is experiencing maybe some form of abuse within the home, and so they need to get out to be able to feel safer. We always relay as Missing Child Kenya in our communication when it comes to the preventive side, because we feel like prevention is better than cure. There's an African saying, or is it African? It says it takes a village to raise a child. And so we have a lot of shared responsibility amongst ourselves. Even as a parent, I cannot bear the sole burden of taking care of my child because I am incapacitated in so many different ways. There's people around me, the immediate caregiver. They could be a relative because as Africans, we are communal. We are not living in a nuclear family type of setup. There's always 1 to 3 relatives within the home. Such relatives also can play a good role in terms of the child's welfare. So this shared responsibility needs to be reinforced. Having all of you knowing that you have a joint responsibility to the child within the home is very, very important. The second thing is empowering our children with information that can be of help to them. As Africans, we don't have the culture of talking about personal safety or body safety in so many different ways. We have not, some of us are in our mid-30s and we've never had a conversation about sexuality with a parent who is the primary person who probably should be having such a conversation with us. And so when it comes to instances of sexual abuse, then our children have gotten information from very many different sources, the internet being a leading source. And so there's a lot of confusion in our young children's minds, especially the preteens and the teens. My point around empowering our children, I would lend it to the fact that we cannot be around our children 24 hours a day. But if a child is better equipped with safety knowledge, they're able to navigate around certain situations in a manner that is more empowering to them. So children who have been taught safety skills are more assertive. And that is why in part of our prevention programs, we focus so much on teaching the safety skills, of course, at age appropriate times, because what a 0 to 5 year old, or let's say a 1.5 to 5 year old understands as safety is not what a teenager would be understanding as safety. So again, the age appropriateness of the lessons would come in handy.
Okay. How young can you introduce a child to the sex talk? Because just as you rightly put it, in the African setting, we find it to be like a taboo topic, and yet it's something that we have to talk about. Maybe I could pick your brain on that.
As soon as a child is able to interact, let's say between 1.5, depending on the milestones, 2 onwards, when they're able to pick certain words, they're able to pick a lot of cues on what is allowable or not allowable. Just teaching your child about their own personal safety, about their body, telling them we have simple things like the underwear rule, where the underwear goes, if it's a bikini and a top and a bottom, don't touch unless it's a doctor checking up, unless someone is helping me wash up, or if they do so, then I can comfortably report to someone. Just getting into your child's life around them. 3 to 5 year olds have started school, they're developing relationships, they have a circle of influence, they have formed certain friendships, knowing the 5 people around your child, and just creating an environment of trust that with simple exercises. There is, for instance, something that we do with the 5 fingers. A child just names 5 people that they can talk to in case of anything. And children name people that you would be surprised as a parent. They would even probably not name you sometimes, but they name your best friend. So don't get offended because you have a best friend who has your child's best interests at heart. Some children even get to the point, because again of the level of understanding, from the 5 fingers, a child might even list a favorite cartoon character. But it's important to have this conversation so that you can tell them, let's say Dora the Explorer or Ben 10 might not come to rescue you. Let's work with people that we know who are at home. If we proceed to 6 to 10 year olds, they're starting to know rules. They're following rules at school. They know the wrong from the right. It's a good time to start enforcing rules of check with me before doing this. If someone talks to you online, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's about the age appropriateness. For teenagers, preteens, we talk a lot about consent. We talk a lot about their online habits, what is a good online citizenship or online behavior or not, what to do when online, because again, their vulnerabilities come when they're on the online space, because a lot of them own devices. When it comes to children of a certain economic background, because again, some of the reasons that relate to children being vulnerable is also because of economic differences, diversities, you'll find that children will be lured to sexual activity because of their economic lack. So if someone tells you, I will take you to school for this, or I'll give you this dress, or I'll give your mother a job, it's about teaching children assertiveness, consent, and again, just teaching them to say no without explanations. A no is a no. Yes.
You know, I find it interesting. Many times you've rightfully put it, it's about a conversation, because our children have different growth pattern. And so it's about talking to your child and getting to know what they know. I remember, I think last year when our little one, our child, talked to us about, sex and how much do you move, how much don't you move? And I thought, where did you learn this? And this is to say, to our parents, that at times you might think your children do not know much, but you'll be surprised how much they know. They see it in cartoons, they have this conversation with other people. The movie you're watching and they pass by to go grab something from the kitchen, there's something they're getting. So there's a lot of sex talk everywhere and sexual action. And so it would be important to get into it. Mariana, currently in Kenya, one of the cases that have blown the media houses is the 80-year-old girl, a family of 3 children, and there's an 80-year-old girl who the mother left them with their dad. You know, she's into alcohol, the mother. And so what the father did, he turned her 80-year-old girl to be the wife, to a point that he told the younger ones, the 2 younger siblings, to call the 8-year-old their big sister, mom. And that's one of those cases that you would watch on the media and wonder, who can do that? As you said, a home is that place where it's supposed to be safe. It's that place where you're supposed to have the security. And so the walls of trust were broken down on this girl at a very, very tender age. In such cases, how do you go in? How are we supposed to talk to our children about safety within the 4 walls of the home? And many times we look outside, we look at the stranger danger, thing. We look outside, danger is going to come from outside, from the stranger. But this time round, the danger is coming from the protector. So the protector turned prey. What kind of talk would you have with a child before that happens that would make the child be able to report? Because in this particular case, we see that it's social worker or volunteer who basically started knowing there's something wrong. But even when they knew, they could not put their finger on it until the neighbors picked themselves up and said, hey, we need to do something. And that's why in Carol Murani, there's something which we normally say, there's a hashtag, we say, remember teal. And the color teal should push you into some form of action. So these neighbors were pushed to action and they had to say something. How then do we talk to our children about safety in our homes without planting a wrong seed?
I think for me, I want to flip the conversation, because why should we keep warning our children and not also deal with the other end?
Amazing.
And I'm looking at it from a point of view that abusers or perpetrators of crime, sexual crime, or any crime against children do not just grow overnight. These are people who live within us. There's someone who must have seen 1 or 2, 3 things. It's never a first attempt. They perfect the art of abusing children. So it's never a first time attempt. But the problem with most of our people within the African culture, or let me not generalize and say in Kenya,
yes,
a lot of us, based on our different cultural backgrounds, also hold certain secrecy because of certain cultural practices. We don't have the courage to call out such people. Yeah. I am sure growing up in your village, you knew someone, you knew about a fella who touches children, but no one has ever done anything about it, but they just whisper and point. What do we need to get to the point that such people are easily identified? Out there in the West, you are lucky to have sex offender registries. We don't have sex offender registries in Kenya or even in most African countries, because that would be a starting point of noting this person and their behavior and protecting children from this person. Because for me, I'm looking at it on the flip side. We can't keep terrorizing our children in a way and telling them, if someone does this, children do not need to live in a world of fear. We don't need to create that world of fear. We just need to have some little bit of caution without creating fear that every other person is out to attack them. So for me, I'm very keen on breaking the stigma of us discussing about sexual abuse within the home. In a lot of different communities, sadly, it has become an out-of-court settlement. There is no prosecution from abuse within the home. What happens is the elders meet and then they decide that a fine will be paid in lieu of this child's trauma. then 2 or 3 goats are paid and one is slaughtered, people eat, everybody is happy, and they forget about the trauma that this child, whether boy or girl, has already endured and would carry as a scar for the rest of their lives. So it's about time we cut that stigma. And we also had the courage to point and prosecute these abusers within the home. It doesn't matter if it's your own blood brother, because they have harmed a child, not necessarily, because sometimes if it doesn't happen within the home, they say, oh, it's a neighbor's child. A child, whether yours or any other person's. They deserve their innocence. They deserve their rights to be upheld. So in the conversation of what happens within the home, a lot of it has happened, and it has built up because of the secrecy that we keep. Let us break that stigma. Let us prosecute. Let us report. Let us distance ourselves. Let us openly identify these abusers, whether they are our relatives or not.
Love the direction this conversation is going, because that's exactly where I wanted us to finish it with. So it's beautiful that you brought it right now, because many times we are always talking to the victim, not the perpetrator. We are always telling the victim, hey, don't be out at this time. Hey, don't wear that. Hey, don't now train the child what to do. But what about the perpetrator? In this case, what about the father? In this case, the neighbors knew what was happening, but it took them so long until when the child was really messed up in a terrible way, that's when they reached out. What we are encouraging our viewers today is say something. Say, let that prompt you to do something. Go out and say something, do something, not to the victim, but to the perpetrator. All right. So moving on, Mariana, let's talk about online safety. It is huge. Of course, not with child in Mashinani, but we are not where we were specifically in Kenya and many other parts of the world, of course. But we are not where we were. Today, our children are very, they have access to our phones. They have access to their phones, their tabs. In fact, nowadays, our parenting mostly is, we've decided to do remote parenting so that we talk to our children. I saw a clip where a mother is texting the son next room and, giving him orders what he needs to do. And I thought, wow, is that where we have reached? So we've given our children a lot of freedom. And today our homes, most of our homes, okay, not all, but most of our homes come with internet. So we have a lot of internet for us to wander off and go to whichever sites. It's good because our children are able to open their thinking, but at the same time, it comes with something negative. Walk us through safety, online safety.
Online safety is becoming an increasing concern because our children have access to the online world. And again, interestingly, our children are more knowledgeable about the online space than we are. So as adults, we are actually playing a catch-up game. And so it is a bit of a challenge because both of us are learning and exploring at the same time with our children. And so again, the online world is so dynamic. Technology is so dynamic. Who knew that MySpace would not be present to date? Right now, all the rave is on TikTok, right? True. So again, the dynamism of the online world also poses a second challenge. And out of the online world, it's not all bad, actually, because there's quite a lot that our children have learned using the online platform. They have picked up skills, they have made friends, we are able to communicate with them. A good demographic. They're able to have regular Skype calls. You don't have to wait once a year to take your children down to the village to see their grandparents. And so there's a lot of different scenarios that come into play. Number one, how do we protect our children from an environment that even we are not in control of?
That's right.
Number two, how do we identify what is good and what is bad? How do we filter? And number three, how do we also still give them the freedom to explore this by themselves and learn the risks and know what to do? How do we let them explore also without creating a culture of fear? And how do we just make them grow? Children are creators, children are coding, children are creating different good things online. And so to me, again, the conversations on safety should not be put in different silos. We cannot say that safety online is a very different ballgame from safety or offline. The same way we make friends online is the same way we should make friends offline. That's a simple way to have conversations with your children, because even as a parent, you always check in. Who is your new friend? Can I meet them one day for dinner? Do we know their parents? Where do they live? Do they go to school with you? So the same rules of life offline will also apply online, because again, you'll be checking with your child on your device. Who are your friends? What are you talking about? Who are their parents, so to speak? Do their parents also know they're online? And so we should not fear that the online space is something we cannot tackle. We should just also apply the same everyday rules. There's also the same kind of etiquette that we should observe. We cannot be in a room alone with a device for over a certain amount of time. There's always family time. Yes, we always have things that we share together. We probably have a family room where things are put as resources, right? So again, it's just looking at some of the day-to-day rules and applying them to the online space, but also to challenge us that we need to also improve our knowledge of the online base, because with our limited knowledge, a parent once told me that I've taken away the child's device, the phone, and so they cannot speak to anyone. And then someone else told them, but do you know about the concept of the Internet of Things? If your child still has a PlayStation or a game console, it has a messaging platform. They are probably still in so much communication with the friends that you think you have taken the device from. And this really shocked the parent, because we were even asking ourselves, then will the microwave speak? And we told them in the future, even the microwave will be able to speak to the toaster. And so it's about also us as parents coming up to speed. And I must say that this time where a lot of our children's learning has been taken to the online space, it has also helped us quite a lot, because most of the schools have given homework online. And so with guidance from the parent at home, it has also helped to bring most parents up to speed. That being said, I would also say that the online space is a good resource that also not all children sadly have access to. Because if you also look at all the good that all these other children are experiencing, if you look at children from a different economic background, they don't have access to all this. But again, their vulnerability means that even when they have the limited access online, an encounter with a perpetrator can be life and death matter. Again, the economic consideration or the economic diversity of certain children or certain families in relation to technology needs to be put into consideration. That being said, I would say that again, if we look at what is wrong and what is right, like I said, same rules apply online and offline. We say hello, we say thank you, we say please, we do not insult people. So we also start having conversations around online bullying, because again, one thing about the online space, online abuse, it has also happened largely on a peer-to-peer basis. Children abusing other children online. And so we should also not just consider that it's only adults who are online to abuse children. Then that means you start asking yourself certain questions. Is my child among those who troll other children online? Is my child among those who also are asking for nudes online? So child to child or peer to peer abuse has also happened on the online space. And so we also need to be aware of that we are not focusing our eye on one side and again within the children themselves, there's also a lot of activity happening. And
Yes.
looking at a child's privacy also when they are online is a very tricky piece, because a lot of us are tempted to spy.
Yes.
And a lot of us also have looked at mechanisms to be able to have control. I think it's best to have a conversation with your child and tell your child that I'm putting this age appropriate measures on your device because of 1, 2, 3. And I've also put a certain checker because sometimes some content will come up without you knowing. Have the conversation with your child so that they don't feel like they're being spied on. This is a very different era, because in our age, I think the most private thing that I had was my diary, and I would hide it
Yes.
very far. But somehow my mom
Absolutely.
always found it.
Yeah.
So we look at things, parenting has also become dynamic. When we're also putting these controls for our children online, let's have a conversation with them and tell them, I am doing this for you because of 1, 2, 3 reasons. And of course, let us be realistic. Your teenager, your preteen will not appreciate it immediately. You'll get
No.
tantrums, you'll get some silent treatment, you'll get different
That's
forms
right.
of feedback, but
Yeah.
at least you started at a good point where you had a conversation with your child. Parenting
Yeah.
is easier said than done. You can read all the textbooks, but
That's true.
children are all beautiful in their own way. So
That's
they
true.
react to
Yeah.
certain things all very differently. Yes.
That's true. Actually, you said it right, because they say parenting does not come with a manual. Every child
It
comes
is
with
not
their very
manual.
own, way on parenting. It's never the same. You're lucky. At least your mother might not have gotten your diary easily. My mother got everything that we need. And I like what you've said. In this day today, parenting today, it's not about rules and throwing them off in the air in any way. You actually have to sit down with your child and explain this. This is why I'm doing this. This is for your safety, and because of 1, 2, 3. It really, really works. Just yesterday, we're having a conversation with our children surrounding TikTok, because they really, really want us to open them those accounts, and we're showing them the power of TikTok and what it did to the American president just the other day. The power of TikTok and it being in the millennials' hands, or they call it Generation Z. It's a very, very interesting generation. They want to move and see results here and now. I like that my husband says, I will keep up with them till the very end. So that's very important to know. Have a conversation around why you're doing what you're doing, why you're minimizing their time on social media, for example, why they cannot have 1, 2, 3 things. Mariana, something I found very interesting in my personal life, our youngest went through surgery just the other day. And what happened was, after that, we wanted to celebrate her recovery. And one of the ways, she loves photos. So we decided to have a photo shoot. Now, it was themed candy. It was a candy themed photo shoot. It's interesting that I sent the photos out to my family, and my brother, being the man of the house, because we're girls and one boy, my brother, being the man of the house, said a very interesting remark, and he said, Terry, don't send. I hope you're not going to post this picture. There was one specifically, and I asked why, and he said it's very suggestive because my daughter was licking the candy. Now, in my eyes as a mother, it was very innocent. The shot was very innocent. My child was very innocent. But then running it by him without even knowing that I'm running it by him, he said something that made me stop in my tracks, that I realized, oh, wait a minute, because we have perverts, we have sites that people just sit and watch our kids and undress them and things like that. Watching you in one of your, I think, YouTube, you talked about think smart. I want you to talk to us about that. I found that very, very whole. I found that conversation very rich as a parent. Before I post something, or when I'm talking to my child, before she or he posts something, the acronym think smart. Could you please walk us through so that our viewers can just have a glimpse of what it is, what some of the things we should be thinking before we go out and put out something in our social circles.
Okay, so you brought up a very interesting point around what content should be out there. And probably before I get to ThinkSmart, I'll just like to touch on a little bit about also privacy concerns when it comes to any platforms that we are on, whether as adults or as children.
Yeah.
And I think the right to privacy is an inherent universal right for everybody. And our children deserve the right to their privacy. And so that is why even in my work, my day-to-day work at Missing Child Kenya, we are very particular about privacy concerns of images and data that we receive about missing children. We have to get them with consent from the parent, post them, and when a child has been found, they now take back their right to privacy, and we have no right to inform the people of where, what, and how what happened. That remains in our case file of for child protection and police.
Okay.
And so different conversations are also arising in the online space currently on the privacy concerns, especially for children, because most of them are not on the age of consent. A lot of these platforms have been pushed through legislature to put age appropriate concerns. I think Facebook, their age limit is 13. I'm not sure about the other platforms, but I've worked a lot with Facebook within their East African level. And so I am, their safety area is very much concerned about the appropriate age for joining a platform. So also as parents, we have to be very conversant about certain things. A lot of the time, some of these happenings come in the fact that I will use my account, I will use my email account to open an account for my child. That is wrong, that is inappropriate. We should listen to the service provider or the platform providers for a warning that if the platform provider then says that the appropriate age to join a certain platform is maybe age 10, and you join your child who is age 8, and something happens to your child, unfortunately, you have little or no recourse, legal recourse in following up, because you started off by breaking the platform provider's initial rule on the appropriate age for joining the platform. So we should be very conversant about such things as parents. In terms of the SMART rule, it's something that we also share largely with the children on the online space when we are training them. And we're just talking about different pointers on how to be safe online. And for us, S stands for safety. When we're talking about safety, we want to look at them learning how to keep their information safe. And by keeping your information safe, we are going into simple things as how secure is your password? How easily can someone hack into your password? We find it hilarious when you check into someone's house now that in the urban areas we have internet connectivity. The first person to tell you about their Wi-Fi password should be probably the 5 or 6 year old in the house. They'll tell you, Auntie, do you have a Wi-Fi password? Then they will give you the Wi-Fi password.
Yes.
Right? So if they also know their mom's passcode on the phone, they will give you the passcode. So teaching our children about the security of their data and their platforms is very, very important, and also how to secure these platforms. The second thing about the SMART rule, so S is for being safe, knowing how to be safe online, having safe conversations, knowing how to secure your presence online. For M is about meeting up, don't meet up. A lot of the times vulnerabilities occur when a child has had a conversation with someone online and then eventually this person says, can we meet up? And that is how grooming works, because children need some level to develop some level of trust, and you'll find this perpetrator has been talking to this child over time. And so they will say, then can we meet up? Then the child will be like, Then the person will say, but we are friends, we've been talking. I told you my secret, you told me yours, blah, blah, blah. And so it's just to tell children, do not meet up at all. Now that a lot of them also in different schools have different programs on maybe inter-school exchanges and whatnot, all of those are governed by a teacher. So you apply the same rule. If you want to talk to person X on program Y within your school online curriculum, you always have to check with your teacher. So if you also want to talk to person X on a certain platform, check with me at home. So online, offline, don't meet up without parental consent. Check first with your parent and they will say if it's possible to meet. And the reason I'm saying check first with your parent is because currently also with the lockdown, our children are talking online. They are calling each other. So sometimes they might also assume that they want to see each other. So a meeting might be positive, be the last check off before a meeting occurs. A is for accepting. Acceptance, accepting emails, accepting friend requests. We should also teach our children the vetting value, the value of vetting anything that they receive. For the longest time, we used to receive emails online and we say, I've been told I've won this, I've been told I am going to this place, or someone has said, give me this, I'll give you this in return. Teaching our children the value of vetting is also very important because then they will know how to filter what is good and what is bad. They learn how to block. Because vetting comes also with the end action of if I don't like this person, I will deny their request, but I'll go and spam them so that they're not able to send me any more friend requests. So that is it about accepting. R, we're talking about the reliability of information that is either received or shared by the child. So it is two-way on the R, reliability. A lot of the times we receive information that is sensational, not real, not factual. So also how do we help our children investigate such information? Yes. And be able to discern. How do we start planting the seed of discernment in our children when it comes to checking out the reliability of certain information? And also on the same note, how do we also empower them to know how to be able to share factual, truthful, reliable information in the same online world? Remember, the online world is also two-way, it's give and take. You have to be a good citizen to get good friendships.
That's true.
So how do I receive reliable information and how do I also send out reliable information? And when it comes to T is the final one, and T comes strongly with the empowerment of knowing that a child knowing that they can be able to trust and tell someone. A lot of the times, even in the offline world, children have kept incidences of sexual abuse to themselves out of fear of not knowing who to tell or how they will react when they're told that. Our children should always feel that it is okay to say when they are not comfortable. They can always talk to someone. Give them a broad angle of who they can be able to talk to so that, again, they do not clamp up and say, if I'm not talking to mommy, that's it. There's always auntie so-and-so. There's always my friend. There's always someone that I can speak to. Now, more than ever, also in the online world, a lot of psychosocial support for children is coming online in terms of chatting forums, in terms of chat box that are able to ask a child, how are you feeling today? Can you talk to me anonymously? Anonymous tip lines for teenagers who are on the risk of running away have been set up. So just making that open environment that our children feel comfortable enough to tell someone when something happens to them, and trusting that some action will be taken. Sometimes children fear because probably before they have said something and it was ignored. So tell someone is part of the SMART rule. So remember, S, be safe. M, don't meet up. A, accepting emails and information, and then R, the reliability, and T, tell someone. That is our SMART rule.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I found that to be very educative for me, and I ran it by our children, just talking to them on those specific things that you pointed, because they're very good. They're able to guide you. I know we are running short of time, but you can't let you go without asking. I'm a parent. I have just realized that my child who was next to me is no longer next to me. My baby is missing. I am panicking. What am I supposed to do? What are my first steps? Where should I go first? Should I continue looking, for example, if I'm at the mall, should I continue looking at the mall for the next 2 hours? Should I rush quickly to the police? At what point is it acceptable for me to report it as a missing person? At what point do I get in touch with Missing Child Kenya? When do I call that toll-free number, which you will definitely share with us? Just walk us through that as a parent whose child has gone missing.
So one of the reasons I set up Missing Child Kenya is because I realized that we do not know what to do or where to go when a child goes missing. Sorry, I'm just trying to set up my camera better. So we don't know what to do or where. And so the challenge has been, this is not an automatic situation like it happens in the West where there's the Amber Alert system. Actually, my dream for Kenya is to run Missing Child Kenya to be the Amber Alert system kind of interaction. And we're actually working with closely with ICMEC, the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They're helping us with a few things in the background, like developing a policy framework on missing children for Kenya. That aside, when a child goes missing, the realistic bit is, number one, the parent panics, start looking everywhere, you don't know where to go, and the information that you have about your child, you've not probably packaged it in a manner that put out to the public is helpful. So I'll take you through the steps of what we do, which also have some tips on what the families should be able to do. So the number one thing, three things are very important when a child goes missing. Number one is time. Number two is facts. And number three is an image. Time is very important. Do not wait for 48 hours to report a child who is missing. In Kenya, we still have the gray area where we do not have a policy framework that states that a missing child report should be taken in immediately. So do not wait. Go to a police station, make a report, get an OB number, which is a reference number that assures that the police is aware that your child is missing. Number two, facts. Quickly collect information about your child, have it ready. The full names of the child, if they use any nicknames, where they were last seen, what they were wearing, any special needs or concerns. Special needs children, I must say, have had a very big challenge when it comes to our database. We have children probably who are autistic and nonverbal and they go missing. So it's good to highlight such things within the alert, where they go to school, a few more information that is more helpful, and then we will use that to put up an alert. The third thing, like I said, is an image. An image is very, very important because without the image of a child, then people will not know who they're looking for. So it's very important to have an image of your child. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't have the practice like it is out there in the West of a yearbook where every year a child is photographed. And so it's able to track a child photographic chronologically. So sometimes the image might be up to date or probably 2-3 years behind, but with smartphones that is improving. Give the best possible image of your child. Avoid putting too many images again, because with different cameras, different filters, images may change and people may think it's a different child. We always advise a maximum of 3 images. Once this is put together, we help you put this together. We start by disseminating this information for you to help you the trouble of walking around. When I mean the trouble of walking around is our systems are not as connected as systems in developed countries. So we'll not have an alert that will go out across police stations and say this child is missing and everyone will be aware. So that means most parents will walk from one police station to the next trying to report. What we do is we step in that gap for you. We have developed networks with all these different entities, groups of children's officers, groups of children's homes, group of law enforcement, community groups. Then we'll be able to quickly put out this alert in them and within the groups and tell them child X is missing in area Y. They immediately, such special groups that we have created, get a branded SMS alert from us. It's just a tick to quickly tell them that child X is missing. Go to our social media platforms, you'll find that. In essence, we are helping you get the information to as more people in the fastest time possible. And that is what is needed at that time. What we do is when we publish this link on our online platforms, they help with feedback, because it's the same public that will report back and say that we have seen this child missing. And so when they're published, we also track and follow closely. The toll-free line is available for also feedback from the public in case they have noticed something. I must clarify here that the toll-free line is not yet operational 24 hours. We are still at 8 to 5, and those are some of the bigger growth dreams that we have. Now, when a child is found, there's also certain things that need to be put in consideration, because circumstances are different when each child is found because of the different reasons why they go missing. Sometimes a child can be found and they will be in need of care and protection. So how do we ensure that gotten a connection to the right service provider for medical attention, psychosocial support? And we have tried very much to also look for linkages with partners that also offer these services for free like we do, so that we cater for the bigger demographic that is in need of these services and they cannot be able to afford to pay for them. Once a child is found and reunited with their family, of course, we still keep them within our database file, and we make periodic follow-ups to know the status of. The reason why, if a child was lost and found, maybe wandering, and then they're taken to a police station, a lot of people ask us, why don't you just take this child? If this child says they live in Nairobi, why don't you take them to Nairobi South, where they say they live? Now, the aspect of why did this child get separated from family comes in. Because if it's a teenager or a certain age who was able to run away, what were they running away from? We need to discuss this from the police station before we hand the child over back to the trouble that they may have been running away from. So in so many ways, we have tried to put that together so that someone can be able to access us easily from whichever point of view. On Facebook, we are very much active. Someone can talk to us on our inbox or tag us on alert. We respond. On Twitter, the same. On email, we receive our alerts on email as well, the toll-free line, on a WhatsApp-only line as well. So those are the 5 available channels that we have tried to be accessible to the community to be able to give the service. On top of that, what we also try to do is to run educational programs, training programs. And right now, because of course of the current restrictions, we are really big on doing a lot of community awareness. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Awesome. We do safety audits for communities, institutions, and help them to put certain measures in place when the children are there so that they can be able to protect children better. Or the toll-free line. The toll-free line for Kenya, for Missing Child Kenya, is 0800 22 33 44. Easy to remember. 0800 22 33 44.
Yes. Amazing. All right. Mariana has written a book, and you know, this conversation is so rich, but time is gone. I just love talking to people who are no longer just having table conversation, because we're always hearing we need to have this conversation. We need to have this conversation. And the problem with that, conversations are good, but we have to get from the table and get to the field where there's action and actually do something. And that's why I just love this conversation. Thank you, Mariana. You have written a book, High Five Spirit. It's going to be in series, right? Currently, it's still not yet on Amazon. So personally, I cannot get it, but I'm sure that I will be able to.
We will get it.
So tell us, how do we get the book and how much is it? And what is it about anyway?
So High Five, here it is. It's the first of our safety series. And it's looking at, for us, we are looking at teaching children using means that are non-threatening, having discussions about child safety in a non-threatening manner. For instance, for this High Five, we base it on a 5-star learning model. We look at a child and their sphere of influence. Who can they learn from? The child can learn from a parent. The child can learn from a teacher, that's the second. The child can learn from a caregiver. This could be a nanny or someone else, or maybe a Sunday school teacher. And the child can learn from another child. Those are 4 so far, and the child can also learn by themselves. So we look at that interactive and see how to create relevant material. The reason I
Yes.
wrote this book was because I have not seen enough local content on child safety. In terms of, we have fantastic material, but it's not localized to our situation here. So that
Yes.
is one of my biggest goals of creating local Kenyan content for children, for teachers, and also for parents across the different levels. So this book, we have two amazing characters. There's Kito and Lulu. It's
Yes.
targeting the kindergarten age 3 to 6, because I believe that's the first place to start safety conversations. Start these conversations from. There's a little bio on the book on our Facebook page for the book. It's called The Adventures of Kito and Lulu. If you visit that, then you can get more information. And the book is going for 350 shillings. And I will also give our WhatsApp only line where someone can be able to communicate about delivery for the book, and we'll be able to work on delivery logistics for the book. So it's going for 350 Kenyan shillings. And it's a fantastic read-along activity book for parent, child, or whoever is reading with a child. And so maybe at the end of the webinar, we'll share the details on the book and any other links to any material that we may have discussed today.
Amazing. Much needed book in this season, in the next season, in all the seasons. It's one of those books that you want to have with you. It breaks it down, I believe. It breaks it down to, the different levels that Mariana just talked about, something that you can begin to have this safe conversation. If there's something that I'm going out from this conversation with, is the power of communication, because it's in everything, whether it's a social media aspect of being safe, whether it is just how to take care of yourself, communicate, whether it is you've seen a neighbor who is really not behaving well, or parent, it's about communicating to the right channel, talk to the right people on what is happening. Mariana has been our guest today. Before I let you go, what are your words, final words that you can tell our viewers? I know, Mariana, please accept my invitation next time, because I know we haven't touched on so much. We haven't even begun talking about Simba Safe Kenya, what you do. Just tell us your final words, and please let us know, how do you fund this project? How do you fund this? Because you've been talking about toll-free line, you've been talking about all these things. I know there is your personnel that they need to be paid. How can someone support Missing Child Kenya? What are some of the ways that you would want us to support this very, very much needed organization?
First, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity, Terry. I'm always happy to share about what we do, because I feel the issue of missing children needs a bigger voice. It needs more platforms so that more people can start having a conversation about it. We have put different strides when it comes to different areas of child protection, and we are doing well. We have made progress in maternal health. We have made progress in nutrition, education. It's also about time, FGM, we have also really tried female genital mutilation. It's about time we also started looking at certain smaller components like missing children or children on the move, children in migration, refugee children, to know how to be able to also empower these sectors and protect the children overall. For me, my parting shot is, it takes us all. It takes a village.
That's true.
It's about time we got back to the African culture of being concerned about your neighbor's child, of being concerned about anything that is happening within your vicinity, knowing those children, knowing their welfare, and asking the right questions. It takes us all. Protecting our children is now a shared responsibility more than ever. And so even if we make a report to child services will still depend on the structure of the home, the child, even up until the neighbors, for them to be able to make a very informed decision on the next steps for this child. So it takes a village, it takes us all. It is a shared responsibility on child protection. Missing Child Kenya is registered as a non-profit. We offer our services for free. And so on that end, we depend a lot on donor support for our different projects. This book, High Five, is also part of our income generability on the end, because we are also trying to be sustainable, self-sufficient. We, with the assistance of the Aga Khan Foundation East Africa, we set up a fundraising platform. It's called Mchanga. It's on Mchanga. I should be able to share the link to that. Where our main call for support is to help us expand our toll-free line, to help us grow our toll-free line, because if you visit our website, www.missingchild.co.ke, you'll find that there's a lot of areas that we have not yet in Kenya. We are barely scratching the surface. And if we equip our toll-free line to be able to create such support, then we'll be able to pick up on more cases and help more children faster. So our call for assistance is to be able to grow our toll-free line to be operational 24 hours, and to also have certain user functionalities that we have not yet acquired because of our level of financial capacity.
Amazing. All right, so you've heard from Mariana. She comes with book knowledge. She comes with field knowledge, which is something that I truly, truly love. And you now see why she's top 40 under 40 award winner, why she's the chairperson. I mean, all this, you know, I put out her bio publicly for all to see how she has turned all the knowledge that she has into something beautiful. Let's buy this book. It's not just to support her, it is to support you. It is to support your family, your child, yourself. It is to empower you in knowing how to go about matters safety when it comes to our children, when it comes to us, and how the content that we can put out there. Thank you so much. Let's do this again next Wednesday on Warrior Wednesday. Thank you so much, Mariana, for joining us today. And from Carol Murani, we leave you with Remember Till. Remember Till should be able to push you to do something. You either protect, you either report, or you either support. Those are the three things we are asking you to do. Step in and do something. We need to run away from victim shaming, victim blaming. It is time for us to take responsibility collectively. As Mariana has put it so well, it takes a community. Thank you so much again. God bless you, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. God bless you. Thank you.
All right.